Good.
What do we got? I don't see Mike Lafredo yet. Does anybody else? I will give it a minute or two.
Yeah, I think I do see him.
Oh, you're there? Okay. I didn't see your name come up, so I was.
Well, it wasn't. I had a little difficulty. I had to do some cutting and pasting. So anyway, I'm
Okay.
on now.
Good. Okay, we've got everybody here, so I'll call a special meeting of Windsor Heights City Council to order. Roll call.
Sue Skerries,
Here.
Joseph Jones,
Here.
Mike Lafredo,
Here.
Mike Jones,
Here.
and Teresa Harms.
Here.
Okay, let's join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Indivisible, with liberty and
Liberty
justice
and
for all.
justice for all. Thank you. Okay, approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Roll call.
Sue Skerries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Mike Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Okay, first item on the agenda is the consideration of resolution 2020-86, which has to do with the employee wages. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second? Okay,
This is Teresa. I have some questions. If somebody from the budget committee could give us, just kind of talk us through how you came to this decision or how it was presented to you so we can understand how the recommendations came forward.
Mike, you want to do that?
Like, sounds like I'm being volunteered for it, so sure, I can do that. These were the numbers as that they were included in the agenda that were brought to us from the respective department heads, being Dalton, Chad, talking about their evaluations, what their wage recommendations were, and then of course Mark made his wage recommendations as well. And these were the numbers that were presented to us. We discussed them. Now they're being presented to the city council.
Okay, thank you. So Chad, a couple of questions for you. Can you have a standard recommendation for all, hold on, I gotta get to the right thing here. For your staff, the paramedics and EMTs of 4%. Can you, I'm not a big fan of seeing across the board the same number for everybody. I'm assuming that this was built on their performance evaluations. If you could give us some insight on that, I would appreciate it.
Could I ask a question before?
Let's let that question go first.
Okay, my question is, are we dealing with everything right now? The department heads and the staffs?
Right now, we've got a question from Therese to Chad.
Yeah, I
That's
know
first
what
thing.
the question is. So we're dealing with the public
Yes.
safety staff right now, I assume.
Well, the motion is for all of it, but right now Teresa has questions for Chad. Chad?
Well, so wait a minute. Sorry. Is this the motion?
Yes,
So the
We're in
motion-
discussion right now, Mike. We're in
Yeah.
discussion.
we have
I-
one on motion, and now we're in discussion.
Okay, I guess I don't know what the motion was then with this topic of the discussion.
It was in the packet, Mike.
Dave, I saw the motion. Okay, but I'm not sure what this particular motion is.
It's in the packet.
Mike, it was to move to approve the resolution 2020-86 employee wages for the 21 fiscal year as recommended. That's the motion that was made and seconded. So we're in discussion now.
Okay, so it includes everything.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay, so with regards to the public safety team, you'll see it's a printout of a spreadsheet. And the third column over that says budgeted raise, where you see 3.75% for non-union police staff, and then 4% for fire staff. Those are the numbers that I used when I did my budgeting clear back in July of last year. And you're correct, Therese. The actual increases proposed are based off of a combination of that number and their evaluation score. So for example, on the top paramedic, 4%, that person's current salary is $52,253.07. And that's $18.96 an hour. They're based on 2,756 hours, not 2080. And so if you take the 4% times the 52,253, that gives a possible raise of $2,090.12. That particular individual scored an 86% on their evaluation. So my proposed increase is 86% of that total, which is $1,797.51, or a 3.44% increase. And so it falls in line with the city policy on pay for performance, using that 4% number. Now, one thing that is a little more difficult to understand on my sheet is if you look down under possible increase, it's 19,262.43. And that's just those percentages flat across everybody. And then my proposed is 17,385. And you notice that's only a difference of about $2,200. But clear over at the right, you see where it says different in actual versus budgeted, and that's a difference of $7,388. And the reason that number is different is because also when I did my budgeting, even though I used that 4% number, I did it off of that old matrix we had. And so the people at the lower end of the wage scale in the old matrix could have had a higher, more than 4% raise. So for instance, 6 or something like that. And you can see how that one block is outlined in the center. That's the actual percentage. And then you go up or down from there. So when I did my budgeting originally and put the funds in my budget, it was centered around 4% as the number, but it may have been higher or lower depending on where they fell in that wage structure. And that's why there's a little bit of a difference over there. But to answer your question, yes, it's centered around pay for performance based on those percentages and their evaluation scores.
Excellent. Thank you, Chad. This is what I just wanted to make sure I understood that. So thanks for explaining that to me. And I think that's helpful and hopefully helpful for everybody to understand how you came to those recommendations. So that's what I asked for from the last meeting. So thanks for doing that. And just to confirm, and I mean, seeing something on paper and understanding it are sometimes two different things. So I just want to make sure that so you had initially budgeted or had budgeted approximately $24,000 for potential increases. Was that what was in the budget available for dollars, somewhere in that ballpark? And then your recommendations today are that you use 17,385 of that.
That's correct. Yeah, the number that was actually the funds that were actually put in the budget were approximately 26,651, and okay. This proposal is 17,385. So yeah, we're under what was budgeted.
Well under budget, and I just want to make sure. So that was that budgeted line item, and you haven't used anything otherwise in that line item. That budget item still exists today. Right.
And also that number that I just gave you is for those personnel only. So that does not include myself, nor does it include the union personnel. That was simply what I budgeted for those individual people. When I build my budget, I do each person so I can try to calculate that as close as possible.
Perfect. Excellent. Great budgeting. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. That's what I was hoping to understand. You're well within budget. That's helpful. Thank you. Dalton.
Well, we have Chad, and that's
sure.
Chad. Yeah, I talked to Chad earlier, and I commended him on his make sense approach to differentiate and where he came from in getting those numbers. So I think you agree with that.
Fantastic. Dalton, could you walk us through the how you got to your numbers and help us understand those?
Yes, certainly. Screen just froze up. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, come on. All right, I'm having some tech issues. Can everybody hear me? I'm gonna just go at it blind here.
We can hear you.
Okay, so did my evaluations with the form that the council approved. The sheet that you guys have shows the table that I used for what I recommended for pay increases. Anywhere from the lowest increase was 2% up to 5%. Based the increases 100% off of the evaluation scores. They're all within budget, well within budget. I would also point out that we still have a vacant position in the department, and that including the starting wage for that new position, we're within budget. So whenever we get that backfilled, we'll be able to afford it as well.
So Dalton, just a couple quick questions. What did you budget for pay increases? What's that total? Chad gave us what those numbers were. What are your numbers?
Let me get that pulled up here. I think that it was 5% for each employee.
I'm looking for like a total number. Like, I want to know, like, what is it? $7,000? Is it $25,000? What was the number that you had?
At the expense of dragging on here, I don't have that readily available, but I can certainly provide that later.
Dalton, I see that on the,
We're going to move forward today.
yeah, but I do see on your chart, it says you are under the proposed budget by 7,388.
Dalton,
No,
I do
that-
have the numbers.
Mike
Go ahead,
Lafredo,
Rochelle.
I believe, hold on a second. Mike Lafredo, I think that was Chad's
Yeah,
number.
you're right.
I'm asking for Dalton's number.
You are, I'm sorry.
Okay, I'm sorry, Rochelle.
I do have Dalton's numbers if he wants
Okay.
me to read them.
Go.
The total salaries was $425,035.
Yep, I see that there.
And then the total increase was $12,669.68.
Right, no, but that's not my question, Rochelle. My question is,
sorry.
how much did he budget? How much did he budget for salary increases? That's my question.
And you
What
wanted
was
that as
that?
a percentage.
No, I don't need it as a percentage. I just want to know what is the total number that was budgeted for the salary increase? How much was in his budget for salary increases?
I believe that number, which I didn't give you yet, was $48,239.20.
So that's, I think I added, isn't that the total? That's how much money he budgeted for salary increases.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, because that number actually, I see that number on here, but it doesn't actually have anything telling me what that number is on here. I want a certain answer, like I want to know exactly what was budgeted in for, because I'm assuming we're talking about fiscal year 21 budget numbers, right?
Yes.
Right. So for fiscal year 21 budget numbers, what was the number, the magic number that was put in for salary increases for public works?
And Dalton, do you have that in front of you? Because I don't have your specific paperwork in front of me. I just have a couple of spreadsheets in front of me.
Yeah, I'm figuring that real quick here. I got my spreadsheet pulled up.
Okay, while you work on that, I'll continue with a few more questions. So I want to know what's the total that was budgeted for that, and then I need to, and then what is the total increases is this what I'm, and to make sure that I understand. So is this is the 12,669, is that the request then?
Yeah, so the 12,000 is the request in wages for public works staff, with me included in that number.
Okay, so that includes you and it includes Whitney, correct?
Yes. Yep.
Okay, and hers is the hourly wage of $21.64, is that correct? Or is she the $20? Where is she? What number is she on this?
I think she's the 2164. Yep.
Okay. Okay, so then my next question is, so you're gonna get us what your total budget was for that, what you budgeted for. And so then my next question in here, or I guess I guess while you're looking for that number, I'll go on to my next question. Mark, so on the management staff recommendations, can you help us understand why just a 3.5% increase for everybody with the exception of the city clerk, and then what the one-time payment, give us your rationale for that. And Dalton, I'll come back to you.
Certainly. It's based on my belief that these wages are still lower than they should be for the 3 positions that are recommended for increases. This is some recognition of that, both in terms of the percentage increase and in terms of the one-time payments.
Okay, so could you help me understand? So 6 months ago or so, we added the finance director position as well as the communications position. In both of those at that time, you made a recommendation on what the salaries were for those 2 positions based on your recommendations on that time that we needed to have salaries at those levels for those 2 positions. So I'm a little perplexed that we're coming back 6 months later and suggesting that they're inadequately being paid, or they're being woefully underfunded for the salary for what they make, when these are just 2 positions that we implemented 6 months ago. I evaluate my staff in 90 days, and then I evaluate them on an annual basis. And that's when pay raises come in. So I guess I'm a little perplexed as to why we're making recommendations to increase these salaries at a point and when they should have come in the first. So I think we've not been honest or transparent or whatever you want to call it for when we started or added these positions at that time. We should have made sure they were right at that time. So I would love some further explanation or an understanding of why now are they woefully underfunded or not at their level.
Well, I think the communications position is very similar to what was recommended back when the position was established, isn't it? I don't see a large change from that position. There isn't the finance director, I'll acknowledge that, but the communications position is not radically different from what was approved back last year.
Well,
So-
that one's with Dalton, though. That position is under Dalton now.
Right.
Public Works, so it's not.
It's fine. I'll ask about it. I'm curious why.
So the communications position, I think, wage is not changing dramatically from what it was established at the time the position was filled. The finance director position is changing quite a bit based on the results of the wage study that was done. I know not everybody agrees with the wage study. And so I said in my email on Saturday, let's just say that they were way off and you cut their midpoint for the range that's in that study in half and only take 50% of it. The recommendation for 3.5% plus 2,500 is still below that number. So I think this is a pretty conservative increase based on what I believe is a reasonable salary for that position and for the other ones that are in that recommendation.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. So you're just telling me that you just didn't know then, or you guessed, or I'm just trying to figure out why. Then why did we have it? Why was it okay then, and 6 months later it's not?
Because there was no formal study done at the time the position was established. And this was an in-depth review of multiple agencies, multiple positions, which is not what happened when the position was established.
Fair enough. Okay. Thank you. Dalton, any luck at that number?
I've got $23,180.
Okay, and that was salary, public works salaries, including yourself?
Yes, and Public Works it's spread out between, as you all know, between parks, community centers, streets, snow, sewer and sewage disposal, and stormwater. So that's why it takes me a bit to go through all that and tabulate it.
No, thank you for doing that. I'm grateful. Just a quick question. That does not include the pending, that doesn't include the salary that's set aside for the open position. Just want to verify that.
The increase, no.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I'm understanding that 23,180 that you just said is for salary increases only. It doesn't include other, like an open salary, open position salary, correct?
I think what you're asking is you want to know what he budgeted total and then budgeted for the unfilled position and the remainder or whatever was budgeted for salary. Like a three-part question, am I correct?
Not really.
Okay.
It looks
sorry.
like Dalton is off for some reason. Looks like maybe he fell off.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess we'll wait till do we want to go on to other agenda items until Dalton comes back? Can we table this for momentarily?
There he
back.
comes.
I'm on my cell phone now, so this will be a treat.
I think that 23,000, if I interpret it correctly, and I've misinterpreted some of the things already, but that goes to the staff that's on right now. It doesn't account for the new position. Is that correct, Dalton?
Yeah, so appreciate you guys bearing with me here. My computer's restarted. So that 23,000 and change number that I just gave you was the increase in total salaries between the public works departments from this year that we're currently in, fiscal year 20 to fiscal year 21. Obviously not recommending a pay increase for the unfilled position right now, but the $23,000 is the increase in salaries budgeted from current year to next year. The spreadsheet that's in the packet, it shows that vacant position. It's the $20 an hour, just to make sure that we're accounting for that. You know, we're not giving ourselves raises and stuff and giving the employees raises at the expense of filling a position. Does that make sense?
It does. Thank you. So, so based on this, so your total increases are 12,669, and what you had budgeted was 23. So you've got around 11,000 something of unbudgeted, or of dollars that were budgeted for increases that you're not recommending.
Right.
Okay. So I really am just verifying that you're within budget. That's what I'm trying to figure out. But I'm trying to know what the numbers are. Okay. So then my next question is, can you remind me, just because I don't have this information in front of me right now, can you remind me what was the percentage of increase that all the public works staff got in this spring?
It was 17 point. Well, it was last fall. It was August 15th or something like that. It was 17.5% ish, somewhere between 17 and 18.
Okay, so they got a 17 to 18% increase to bring them up with the market rate.
Right.
Is that right? That was the whole goal and purpose there. Okay, and
Yep.
that was that also was in that would have been in the current that we're in right now, the current fiscal year budget, right?
Right.
And then you built that into fiscal year 21, and we're talking this $23,000 that you have available is your fiscal year 21 budget, correct?
Right.
Okay, I'm verifying. I want to make sure that we're dealing with right budgets and the right amounts and all of those sorts of things. So we are building in on average. It looks like the average, I don't know, is probably 3.5% or something like that, plus the 18%, so well over 20% increase for the overall public works staff in less than a year.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Can I interject on that one too? We remember we made a mid-year adjustment as recommended by the Public Works Department.
That's what I was just talking about, Mike.
Pardon?
That's what I was just talking about.
Yeah, I know, and that's where it came from. So I think it just adds to what you're saying. Right, it was the adjustment recommended by the Public Works Committee and then approved by the council.
Yeah, no, I was just asking for, I just was asking for him to remind me what the level was.
But that's,
Okay.
I want to make sure.
Sure. Dalton, one last question. Just help me understand, in particular to, I don't want it certain, but the communications position, why you're recommending 4% at a time when it's 6 months in on the job.
Recommending 4% because Whitney has done exceptionally well in the position, and I think that it's warranted and well deserved. I mean, she performed very well on her evaluation. She's far exceeded what I would have expected from this position when we hired it.
Okay.
I think she may have started in October. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, she started October 21st, I think.
Okay.
All right, so excuse me, 8 months on the job.
Any
Okay,
further questions?
I don't know that I have any more questions. I think I've got my questions answered. I can't support this. I don't know if we want to break it into the different departments or whatever, but the motion on the table at this juncture, with the information that's been provided, I can't support, but I can support parts of it. So I just throw that out there as we continue to have discussion.
I think that's a good point, but I think we could break it down to see what we can get accomplished. I mean, we can look at the director's salaries, we can look at the public safety salaries, and we can look at public works. And I think that's fair. Anybody object to that? That's what Teresa's asking, I think.
We have a motion on the table right now in a second. For the whole package.
Who's the second, Dave? I heard the motion, but I didn't hear a second.
I seconded it.
Okay, who did?
Joseph.
Joseph.
Oh, okay, good.
So let's just go ahead and see where it falls. Roll call.
I probably wouldn't do that if I were you, but okay.
Well, we're still in discussion. I called for it. You decided we want to do something else, so talk to us.
Okay, well, there are 4 other council members who well, 3 others that I don't think we've heard from. And if the proposal is to split it up, kind of like to know more details about that.
Well, Mike, that comment, first of all, came from Therese, I believe. And I think that is fair, personally, because they've, number one, there are different processes used by the administrator, Mark, and the other 2 individuals. So I think that they are somewhat separate, and they're not interrelated, I don't think. So I think it can be separated. I'm not saying it has to, but I don't think it makes a difference. But I would rather be able to work through one successfully or two successfully than not any of them. If we are trying to do the whole package, you can try that. I don't object to that. And see where it goes, and then go back to the parts.
Reese, what was your reason for not supporting the package as presented? While we're still in discussion here.
Sure. So I think I appreciate the public safety's approach. I'm comfortable with how those were presented and the information and how those were calculated. I think that those are fair and seem to be consistent with their evaluations in that process. So I would be comfortable moving that forward as is, and I see that Chad's is not a part of that in Public Works. I think I'm okay if we want to pull out Whitney and Dalton out of that proposal. I would be fine moving forward the Public Works without the Dalton and Whitney piece, and then we can throw Dalton and Whitney into the conversation about the management staff, and then make other recommendations there.
Teresa, can I just comment on that?
Sure.
If you don't mind. And I think you know this, that Whitney reports to Dalton.
Yeah.
Okay. So it seems like if she reports to him, it seems like he should evaluate her. Whether you agree with his evaluation or not, are we going to do a separate evaluation on her now?
I'm not suggesting that we evaluate her separately or differently. My approach is, and it's not about, first of all, I would like to make this statement that I'm very grateful. I think the staff is doing an amazing job. I'm very impressed and pleased. My role and responsibility as a council member is to make sure that we have a sustainable budget over time. And at the end of the day, we need to make sure that we're not having increases that we can't maintain over time. And that's a big concern for me. I deal with it as a business owner every single day. I always want to give people as much as we possibly can. But I think that when you start giving increases in a short period of time, it sets a tone, and it's not about Whitney or her performance. It's about a timing piece for me specifically. And so that's my concern. And so whether you agree with it or don't, you ask me for my opinion, and I'm not to debate it. I'm just telling you what my opinion is. But I first and foremost, I just incredible. Thank you to our staff. You do and have done an amazing job. But we are a small city, and we have a small budget, and we have to live within our means. And sometimes I think that's forgotten. And so I just want to bring that back to the conversation.
Well,
thank you.
I just spoke. That wasn't forgotten. And I'm not arguing with who should get what and all those kinds of things. I'm just suggesting that the line is the way it is through Dalton. I'm not suggesting that the raise, I'm not arguing with you, because I agree the number one priority of a council is to represent the citizens and be fiscally responsible to the citizens of Windsor Heights. I think everybody here would agree with that. So there's no issue there. I don't think with me, and I doubt with anybody else. So to me, that's not the issue. But yeah, it's fine to do it that way. Just it was a comment on my part.
Okay, folks, contrary to comments, I'm going to ask for a roll call.
On which one?
I would like to.
What's the roll call on?
We
David?
still have the same, all three packages there on employee wages.
Okay.
Approval as it stands.
Mike Jones, if you just want to withdraw your motion, you have that option as well.
Well, I think that there are two more council members.
Susan, Joseph,
I'm fine with the proposal as submitted, as I said in the budget committee, which is why I agreed for it to come onto the agenda for tonight.
Susan,
I have some of the same concerns that Teresa had. I guess I was under the assumption, first off, that this meeting was to look at the interview process for the city administrator, not try to throw in at the last minute some proposals for staff members. I guess up until Thursday, I had no idea that this was even on the radar for us to do. So I guess I have some concerns about things. Some of them have been answered. But I really don't agree with the one-time payment either for the management staff.
Is there a reason why not?
Well, because
I'm just asking.
Dave, I
It's
think
like
we.
a bonus in the civilian
Dave,
environment.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think there's a motion on, and I think we ought to go ahead and vote on the motion that's on the table unless the motion is withdrawn.
So can we once again review what the motion is on the table so that I know what the motion is?
Mayor, what's the motion?
The motion is to approve the schedules that have been presented by Public Safety, Public Works, and also City Administrator.
Can we do a roll call?
Okay, roll call.
Can I just speak up for 1 second? I want to keep this as positive as I can, but I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary with the city, and I realize that my job duties have changed since Rochelle came on. And I think it was pretty obvious that there was too much for that position, and that was another reason why we wanted to bring Rochelle on, was to help alleviate some of that burden, because it's a lot for one person to do both the clerk role and the finance role. And when that got changed back by our prior administrator, I don't know if it was necessarily a good idea at the time, because then it caused Marcia to look for other employment. She didn't want to do both roles. I would also like to point out that we had Jess, Sheila, Sarah, Michelle, and myself, and I want Michelle in there because now Whitney's up in the office. So we were paying out 190 hours of salary per week prior to last year when everybody left, and I was the only one, keeping the entire city going with payroll and bills and agendas and the whole 9 yards. Since then, we've replaced those positions with 3 positions. So now we're paying out 120 hours per week, a savings of 70 hours, just if you're looking at the amount of salary that we're doing. I was given a bonus pay for taking on extra roles at the time. And I realized that was supposed to be temporary, but Mark promised that it was not going to be temporary. And now I'm looking at this proposal and I'm taking a $7,157 cut. I would just like to say I have taken on other roles. Jess's role, half of her role, the deputy clerk position, was never accounted for, so that came back to me. And now I'm taking on part of Sheila's role through doing permits for fireworks stands, temporary structures, sign permits, and everything that the company that we hired is not doing. In addition, I'm also now responsible for filing and reporting all the building permits to the county. And now there's even been talk that, and now we still have this big hole with nuisance abatement. I even had a conversation about the possibility of me doing nuisance abatement to, maintain my salary, because I have 8.5 years of experience doing that. But at the least, I would like to say that I think I at least deserve the same 3.5% over that everyone else is getting across the board. So based on my prior salary, if you add 3.5%, I would be at $74,080.13, which is still a $4,652 reduction of what we're paying out right now. So, I can't absorb that big of a hit, and it's going to cause me to have to, make decisions about my career and where I go from here. But I would just like to say that, you know, if you want to talk about this proposal being based on the study that was done, well, I finally found out where my position was compared to. It was 2 cities in Iowa, a handful in Missouri, and a handful in Minnesota. I don't know what those positions do in those other states. And I don't feel as though that the job descriptions were done comparably for my position. We saw the piece that they sent out. Usually between clerks, if we have salary issues, we answer those directly. But if we get a form like that in the mail, we're not likely to flesh it out completely. And so I just don't know how fair it is that, yes?
Can I just interject a question?
Sure.
Have you had this discussion with your supervisor, Mark?
Yes, I have, and it's gone nowhere.
Okay.
And so I would just like to finish it out by saying that, you know, I support everyone in our organization getting paid for what they're worth, and I think they're worth getting what these proposals are. But, you know, if you have your lowest performing public works employee still getting 2%, and I would be sitting here at my 2-year anniversary on July 15th, and I'm only making 2.25% above what I made when I started here, that's an issue for me. So I don't necessarily think it was fair that we're talking about midpoints and all that stuff with the management staff. I also don't believe that our evaluations are filled out in front of us in the conference room with very few, if any, comments about what we needed to do to improve, and, you know, little to no thought was put into them. Now, Chad and Dalton do a great job with their employees and developing their employees and doing great evaluation. So I support 100%.
Yeah, but you don't need to evaluate other people here at this meeting.
No, I'm not saying, it was just a comment, Mike, and that's all I would like to.
We don't need that comment.
That's all I would like. Okay, that's all I would like to say. Thank you.
Thanks,
Travis.
I'll withdraw my motion.
What is the motion, Mike?
I'm withdrawing it.
The motion was to pay what wages for fiscal 21, what was on the sheet as proposed. So if Mike withdraws his motion, we have no motion on the table.
So the beat goes on.
Well, now we can come up with a motion that will be appropriate. We're all here.
I will make a motion to approve the public safety, recommendations.
Second.
Is that it?
There's a motion and a second, Mike Jones.
Well, what he's asking is that all, you don't want to do anything else, just that one particular segment.
Well, I think what we're doing is what I believe we're doing. We're going to vote for the 3 parts separately, or not vote for them.
Okay, let's do that. Roll call.
We're breaking them down.
Did we get a second on that, Mike? Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay, roll call on the public safety salary schedule.
Okay, I have a motion by Treese to approve the public safety salary recommendation, second by Lafredo. Roll call vote. Harms?
Yes.
Lafredo?
Yes.
Skerries?
Yes.
Joseph Jones?
Yes.
Mike Jones?
Yes.
Okay. Any other motion on any of the other parts?
Yes, I'll make a motion to approve the public works as presented.
Can we do that?
Well, we're doing it, I guess.
We just did it with public safety.
No, I understand that. I guess I'm asking for like agenda purposes. I'm asking legal whether or not we can, because I mean, it seems to me that we're more or less adding items.
Well, we just approved one, so it's not separated either.
Well, to your question, Councilmember Jones, the public would be fairly well appraised of the resolution in the packet by reviewing it, that this was an intention for you as a council to approve employee wages. Whether you do it in one motion, 3 motions, I would suggest there's already been enough public notice, and this would not be a violation of open meetings if you were to proceed in this manner.
Okay, thank you, Matt.
Thanks, Matt.
You have a motion on the table, Mr. Mayor.
We got a second?
I'm sorry, what, say again, what was the
Motion for
motion?
public safety as was presented. We got a motion. Is there a second?
The motion that's on the table now, Mr. Mayor, is about the public
Or, I mean,
works.
public works, excuse me.
I will second the motion.
Roll call.
Hold on. Hey, hold on. This includes Whitney, or this does not include Whitney?
He's included in your salaries.
Yes, so it's included right now.
Okay, thank you. That's clarification.
Excuse me?
I just wanted the clarification to just to know for sure.
You got a motion and a second. Roll call.
To confirm, it
Mike
also,
LaFredo,
it also includes Dalton, correct?
No, Dalton's with the director. I understand.
He's on this paper.
Well,
Dalton, you want to explain that?
Well, I mean, I put myself on that sheet just to show the budget impact. If there's going to be any consternation, please remove me from this item if my salary here is going to be the hang up, because it's significantly more important that my employees get what I think that they deserve. So if you need to remove me, that is 100% fine.
I would amend it to remove Dalton because he will be discussed with the directors group.
Okay, is this second still stand, Mike?
I will second the amendment.
Okay, roll call. Including
LaFredo?
Whitney without Dalton.
LaFredo,
Yes,
Mike Jones,
Yes,
Scaries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Oh.
Was that a no?
No, that's a no.
Thank you.
let me make one more motion, Mr. Mayor, if I might, and that is
Go right ahead.
to approve the director's salaries and, open it up for discussion.
Well, if you want to make the motion to approve the salaries as presented, we'll look for a second.
Okay, sounds right.
No second.
I will second Mike's motion.
Thank you, Joseph. Roll call.
Dave, do we have a?
Want a discussion? Go ahead. We've had some, so go ahead. We got comments. Discussion, go ahead.
I think there probably needs to be. I'm not in favor of the package as presented here. I think I have a problem, first of all, with across the board things, but I understand with Mark's position, we just adopted a new assessment instrument. So there wasn't a lot of, again, I've done that job. There's not a lot of setting of goals and stuff that are available at that point. So it's a difficult thing, and I commend Mark for doing it and his other jobs that he does here too. But I'm just, as a general statement, I'm not in favor of across the board raises because it says everybody's performing at the same level. And they may all be performing really well, but there's probably some differentiation. because of the span of control and the various things like that. So that's a comment on that. It's not going to stop me on it, but I do, and I think we've heard that from another person already. I have problems with the one-time payment because here's my rationale on that. From a practical standpoint, when we hire a new administrator, I think it puts him at a disadvantage with staff immediately because, as you say in here, Mr. Administrator, it's a one-time payment. Well, if I were getting that one-time payment and when a year rolls around, time for the next negotiation, that would be my base pay along with the regular pay. So no matter how you word it, it's going to be a part of the pay that the employee receives. So I think that's one of my major concerns about this whole thing is that $2,500 kind of sets up something that we don't need to set up for the new administrator to overcome. Unless he's going to continue something like that, we don't know that. So that's my objection on that, number one. I have other objections too as we go along, but let me stop with that one and allow other people to join in.
Mike, so I just need clarification because I'm not sure I understand. So your recommendation was to approve what's here, or I don't understand what the motion is at this juncture, because you just said you don't support the one-time payments, but
Yeah.
you motion to approve. So I don't.
Okay, well, this is the discussion time. I just wanted to get it for discussion.
Okay, very good.
That way, so we could get it talked about. I would not approve it as it is. So that's
okay.
I'm not changed from that.
Then I would make a different one because I can't support it as it is either. Obviously, I've already said that.
Yeah.
So either down.
What I would include, I didn't understand you, Tree. Sorry.
No, I'm sorry. I said so. We need to rescind this motion so we can consider a different one, or we need to vote it down. One of the two.
Well, Mike, I haven't heard what your proposal is.
Who?
You.
Well, do we put another proposal on while this one is going on?
This is the discussion. I mean, you can propose it and you can then withdraw your motion.
Mike Lafredo, what you put in as the motion was as Mark presented the salaries and the $2,500
Yes.
bonus.
Yes, I did.
That's what's on the table.
Okay, and that's what I thought.
That's what your motion was.
We have to either support it or, get rid of that motion one way or the other. So I think there needs to be a roll call if there's no further discussion.
Well, how about Mike? What would you propose to Mr. Jones's point? What would be your proposal at this juncture?
I think, Mr. Mayor, if you correct me if I'm wrong, that you're saying we need to act on this one now.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Roll call.
Okay, Mike Lafredo,
No.
Joseph Jones,
No.
Scaries,
No.
Mike Jones,
No.
and Harms.
No.
No,
So more motions, can we have a conversation so we can have a discussion and then figure out what our motion is?
Go ahead.
yeah. I'm offering one for discussion, Therese, and I will be happy to share that with you. I've shared it with Dave and Mark already, and it is pretty simple, and it just talks about the three directors, Public Works, public safety, and the finance person, a director. And what I have down with a little bit of support, there's more support that I can cite, but this is my brief on it, is the public works director. I'm suggesting a 7.5% bump for the public work. Oh, this is the public works director now. He's been here at least 2 years. He's received, and I realize we funded it, but the additional certification and training and his current wage, no matter how you look at it, forget the study, but I've called around a couple of places. His salary is not even close to comparable. It is, you can take a lower level position and it's more comparable to that. So a much lower position. So that's why I put that 7.5 in there, because I think there needs to be an elevation. After his we've gotten to know him, and I can't speak highly enough of him from me. And then the public safety person, chief, is I can't say nice enough things about him either. And I've got down at 3.5%. Not because I think that it needs an adjustment. I think he's at this point competitively compensated. And I will comment this about our public safety director. It's very impressive in my opinion. He was willing on one position to take less to put it on somebody else. And as I told him, it's not your job to take it out of your pocket and put it somewhere else. It's our job. So anyway, just that's kind of attitude I think we have in our public safety director and police chief, and which I think is very commendable. Our finance director, I've got the 3.5, and I know there's some thoughts about it. I think she began, if I'm not mistaken, the 12th day of December. So just a little over 6 months. So I think that's an item that could be discussed. And the other one, the final thing I have is an option, just an optional thing that this council can do, because we don't have a permanent administrator, and that's a $1,000 retention bonus for these people. And the new administrator can either carry that forward to the next year or not, or we don't have to approve it now. So I have I'm not rigid in this draft, but I think it aligns closer to what I believe, at least. And I just tell you, I've talked with Mike Jones about it, and Dave and Mark aren't surprised from this because they've seen it already. So I offer it for consideration. And again, I have no pride of authorship here in terms of it being altered. So that would be my motion. And I could certainly send this in, or Mark's got it. And so, and Dave's got it already.
Mike, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mark.
Which positions does the $1,000 one-time payment apply to?
That would go for, again, it's optional, whatever the council decides for this year, but thereafter would be the administrator. I mean, it may not happen, it's optional. The way I have it would be for, the way I have it written would be for those 3 people. So it doesn't have to be that way. That's why this is fluid. It's a starting point, and I think it's pretty reasonable. I think I can defend each of the positions for each of the each of the people here. The position.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Mark.
So my understanding is it applies to the public safety director, the public works director, and the finance director. The $1,000 payment applies to those three positions.
Yeah, it's an option, Mark.
Yeah, yes, I understand that. I just wanted,
Okay.
I wanted to be clear about whether the city clerk is included in that or not. That's my question.
As an option, just to, again, it can be.
Stated the motion, Mike.
Oh, it can be pulled out. Excuse me?
If you want it in there, say it. If you don't, then it's not included. I would say leave the retention bonus in instead of a one-time payment called retention bonus to $2,500.
No, it's not the same, Dave.
I know what you're saying. That's just my suggestion. Your motion is different.
The retention bonus to reward people that are staying with the city. And at this point, I'm leaving it as it is. I'm not going to change that in terms of it being optional for this council right now. But the other is the thrust of it. So we can include it initially and take it out as if people modify this stuff.
Okay, but in terms of a motion, do you want it in there or not?
Yes, you should leave it.
Okay, so it's 7.5 for public works, 3.5 for public safety, 3.5 for finance director, and a retention bonus of 1,000 for each of those three.
Dave,
So
Dave, wait just a second. Be accurate on that. An option for a 1,000 bonus.
Well, who's going to make the decision on the option? If you make a motion, it's got to go that way.
No, it can go as an option. Correct me if I'm wrong, Matt. It can't go as an optional thing and get the core of the thing done or not done.
Well, Council Member Lafredo, I think the issue is you need to describe or specify who has that option or the ability to decide that option.
Yeah.
So is that at the city manager's discretion, the mayor's discretion, council's discretion?
Okay. As far as I'm concerned, I really don't care, but let's just put it in, Dave. Go ahead and put it in just as just as an item then.
The retention bonus of $1,000 goes for the three people that you're recommending get the
Yes.
7 and 5, 3, 5, and 3, 5.
Yeah, let's start there and then
Okay.
people can chip away.
That's the motion.
So I would like to, I don't know that, I appreciate that he's made a motion. Are we still discussing? I think that would be fair to keep moving along here as opposed to voting something up or down. So thank you, Mr. Lafredo. I would actually recommend something a little different that I would like to throw out for discussion, which is to do the public safety chief and the public works director at 3.5%, which was recommended, 2% for the finance director, and 1% for the city clerk. And then
Teresa, let me write that down on my thing. So, the
So
finance,
I'll repeat it, 3.5% for both public works and public safety. The finance director at 2% for approximately 6 to 7 months worth of time here. And then 1% for the city clerk, recognizing that there was a cut in back to where he was when he was taking on more responsibilities.
okay.
And then Mr. Lafredo, I'll second your $1,000 one-time payment, or however, retention bonus, if that's what you want to call it, for the public works director, the public safety chief, and the finance director.
Okay. Who else would like to modify this from Teresa's thing and mine? Again, just trying to move it along that will work with at least three people.
I'm back on now using my cell phone. I've lost all internet here at the house, but I can back what Teresa said. That's what I would agree to.
Any further discussion?
So
What
Teresa,
about, so it sounds to me like we are, have a general agreement at the very least from Mike's suggestion, well, at least 2 people and potentially 3 for the public safety director. A small difference between the finance director, between 3.5 and 2, and then the public works, 3.5 and 7.5. I still think 3.5 is significantly lower than it needs to be. Mike, do you think
on which position?
the public works director?
I think it's definitely low. I think it's time to elevate that salary. He's the lowest among these folks, and got the greatest tenure, and we've got a track record, and he's got all the certifications. And if there's any among us that doesn't think he's doing an excellent job, well, I'd like to argue with you. So, yeah, so I think, yeah, I don't think the 7.5 that I recommended is out of line on that one.
Could
So-
we make that one 5?
Excuse me?
I said, could we make that one 5 and everyone agree to it?
I'm okay with 5%.
Splitting the difference is 6.25, just, but I mean, literally splitting hairs.
Can we do it? Mike Jones has suggested 6.25.
I'll meet you at 5.5.
Huh?
I'll meet you at 5.5.
Oh, geez. Is this an auction or what? Joseph, can you go with the 6.25?
I think that 5.5 is an appropriate compromise.
The 5.5? Okay. Teresa's suggesting modify it to 5.5%. Okay, I can go along with that. I mean, it's not what I would do, but and you're also kicking in the retention bonus of 1,000, right? That what we understand?
That's what I,
David, so let's clean that up. So what I'm hearing is the public works at 5.5% increase, public safety at 3.5, finance director at what? 2.0, and the city clerk at 1%. Is that correct?
Pension bonus for all 4?
The retention bonus for all 4, I'm thinking that is the intent.
That would be your revised motion.
Sure.
Do we have a second for that?
Second.
Roll call.
Okay, Mike LaFredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
Susan Skerries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
yes.
Okay, folks, thank you. Next item on the agenda is consideration of resolution 2020-87, the fiscal year 20 budget transfers. Rochelle, you want to address that?
Hey, before Rochelle talks, can I just thank my fellow council members for working this out rather than carrying it over, and thank Mark for his patience and yours too. So very commendable on everybody's part. Everyone's sincere in what they're trying to do. So I'm done with that, but I think that needs to be recognized.
I
Thank you,
appreciate
Mike.
that, Mike. And I would also say thank you to our staff. Please do know how much we appreciate it. It's a matter of balancing budgets as well. So but thank you for all that you do for us. We do appreciate it.
Okay, Rochelle, do you want to address the budget transfers?
Sure. This is just a balance transfers from the TIF fund for the different separate funds. And the reason for this transfer is these are budgeted. These are budgeted in the fiscal year 20 budget, except for the last two, which have actually already been approved by council, which was paying for the phase 1 of 73rd Street design. And then the 2020 PCC patching, both of those are going to be paid from TIF dollars as well. So this is just a transfer of TIF funds that normally happens at the end of the year.
Move to approve.
Second. If I could just
Go ahead,
hold on,
Mike.
if I could just ask real quick, Rochelle. So the I just want to clarify because it's not specific. The general fund, the first one, the $120,000. Is this the stuff you broke down in the previous documents, but they're not in here?
No, it actually in your budget last year. Remember, this is not my budget. This was last year's budget. Out of that budget, it actually stated $120,000 was to be transferred from the TIF into the general fund. And it actually, it looks like from your TIF document, it's for wages for administering TIF as well as legal for administering TIF.
Mm-hmm.
So even when I put it in the general fund, I don't specify it into those specific funds because it just gets dumped into the general fund. But that's even in your TIF documents, that $120,000.
And then what is the just economic development, the $50,000?
That just was in there as a economic development from TIF to economic development. Doesn't give me any indication of what.
I believe that's for oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say that was for like the grease interceptor program that we had, and then the grant that we gave to different entities around town, the $25,000 grant, and part of it was for the Kester development,
which is done, by the way, right?
Yes,
yeah,
that is done.
Okay. All right, that's all my questions. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, roll call.
Skeeries,
Yes.
Joseph Jones,
Yes.
Lafredo,
Yes.
Mike Jones,
Yes.
and Harms.
Yes.
Okay, folks. Next item is pursuant to Iowa Code Section 21.5, LJ, to evaluate the professional competency of individuals whose appointment, hiring, performance, or discharge is being considered, and the individuals request a closed session. Review the city administrator candidates. Move to go into closed session. Whitney, knock everybody off with the exception of counsel, Mark, and attorney, and Charlene if she's on.
Is Charlene on?